Listen, actually, wait. This is a reminder, right, to those who had forgotten. Otherwise, I will inform you if you didn't know. We take L's on this podcast, okay? Yeah, that's it. We take L's. So, here's the lesson. I'll deal with the losses later, but let's start with the lesson. You need to connect before you correct. I'll say it again. You need to connect before you correct. That's it. I'm done. This episode is done. I mean, what more do you need? Jokes, good people, I hope you are well and winning. Welcome to another episode of Love on a Podcast, a platform where we talk about anything and everything to do with love. Yeah, episode 7. It's crazy. I mean, guys, look, I did say that I was focused. I did say that I was serious about this, that I wanna be consistent. I wanna do the works, and I'm honestly grateful for all of you for tuning in, for sharing, for liking, for subscribing, because it is encouraging. It is very much affirming that something is being done right. So yeah, 7 episodes in, and we are flourishing. We are thriving. We are moving. With that said, let me focus. I was gonna go on with my excitement, but yeah, let me dive in. All right, let me get into it. Let me get into it. Love. We're speaking about love. All right. Love largely manifests between people. It largely manifests in relationships between persons. Yes, you can love an item. Yes, you can love an experience or a place. But let's focus on love between persons. Yeah, it gets sticky, guys. It gets tricky. Because, I mean, as people relate to each other, things get lost in translation or interpretation. But of course, the hope is that respect, honor, faithfulness, and love are always part of the equation. However, as flawed human beings, as flawed beings, we are bound to fall short in one way or another. When we make mistakes along the way, when we wrong our loved ones, and possibly overlook or disregard integral factors or facets of that relationship that enable it to flourish. All right, that's one of the unfortunate things. Therefore, in the light of that, as a consequence, all right, as a consequence, correction, criticism, counsel, critiquing, clarification, they all come up, right? Yeah, it's a lot of work, but they all come up in the light of that. But what I actually want to zoom in on is correction, which is the focal point for today, which is the focal point for this episode. Correction. What does it look like? What should it look like? When is it best delivered or administered? How can it be delivered best? Why is it necessary if it is necessary? So these are some of the questions I ask myself a lot. I asked myself as I was preparing, right? What is the big deal with correction? Before I continue, I want to acknowledge my sisters in Christ who introduced me to this concept, right? We were taught to acknowledge things and reference our sources, lest we get accused of plagiarism, right? So shout out to the ladies from the Rooted Life podcast, Doe and Mo, aka Dorian and Morgan. Shout out to you guys. We had an incredible Zoom session a couple of months ago, and yeah, I think it was Dorian who presented that statement. Phenomenal women who are doing phenomenal work, who presented a phenomenal concept. Connect before you correct. You guys should check them out. They're on Instagram, and they have their podcast on all major platforms. I pray that I'll remember to add the links in the description. But yeah, check them out, guys. Connect before you correct. All right, so that's where we are. That statement really hit me. It really, really, really hit me. It ministered to me. Yeah, considering that I've since taken accountability, discipleship, mentorship, and living in community very seriously, right, in recent times. And so correction and rebuke are trending facets in those settings, right? And as I've been groomed, sharpened, and even nurtured, right, by those who are very dear to me, correction has taken center stage. I'll give you remixed quotes to set the foundation and just really, really, really put the message across. Godfrey, right? Imagine this, Godfrey, right? We're amongst the peoples, right? People that you're living in community with. Godfrey, that's not okay. Bro, do you understand how wrong that is? Bro, that is offside. My guy, that was dizzy. Like, what are you doing? Right? I did say I'm presenting examples. These things have happened, by the way, but they are examples as well. Right? What follows those statements is actually the most precious thing. Bro, perhaps you could have done it this way. Did you consider this? Do you understand why this is wrong? I think this approach works better. All right, it's a whole new encounter and experience when this correction comes from a place of love and genuine concern. It resonates better when it comes from a person that you connect with comprehensively even. And it could be anyone. It could be a sibling, it could be a parent, it could be a teammate, colleague, it could be a relative, it could be your boss, it could be your delegate, your subordinate, whatever it is, right? It could even be a stranger. Follow me with the stranger aspect. I mean, how do you connect with the stranger? Wait, here's an example. I bet that you connected with a stranger who corrected you, cautioned you, warned you about the slippery floor when you're out at a restaurant or at the club, right? At the club, if you missed that reference, right? You connected with their compassion and their consideration, their care. There was a connection before they connected or warned you. Even as small or short-lived as it may have been, but there was a connection. And that's what you resonated with as you were being corrected and therefore acted accordingly, right? Do you catch my drift? And before I drift away, right, we're going to turn to the Word of God, as we always do on this podcast, right? And I hope you're not surprised that I'm going to highlight the incredible examples that Jesus Christ set for us as he interacted with his disciples, specifically and specially. As he corrected them day in, day out, that divine, perfect connection was pivotal, even when it was not fully received or perceived, right? And references, right? This is where the Bible comes in. References in Matthew and Mark outline Jesus' encounters with his disciples, especially Simon, James, and John, right? Yeah. Those encounters were they highlighted a lot of key facets with what we're trying to learn here. Listen to this. From the purview of being connected to God the Father, Jesus Christ the Son was able to connect to his disciples and correct them when they were wrong, when they were sinful. I'll say it again. From the purview of being connected to God the Father, Jesus Christ the Son was able to connect to his disciples and correct them when they were wrong, when they were sinful. All right? And again, the references are in the book of life. Matthew, Mark, specifically Mark 10 and Mark 14. That's where I found some of the references. I will not read all of them, but if you have a Bible, go check it out for yourself. What can we learn from Jesus as we connect others, as we correct those we love, as we connect and correct those we are in relationship with, as we respond to correction, right? What can we learn? It's not always the instance where you have the eraser and the pencil in your hands to correct others. Sometimes you are the one being corrected. How can you respond to that? How can you react to that? What can we learn from Jesus Christ's examples, right, and his interactions with his disciples? That, ladies and gentlemen, is where the L's are recorded, right? As we strive to learn, as we strive to do away with things, right? As we strive to connect with others, we immerse ourselves in the well-being and betterment of others. Therefore, that means consequently, I don't know if consequentially is the right word, but consequently, selfishness takes an L. You have to do away with selfishness, right? There has to be a give and get attitude at play, not a give and take. I would like to repeat that, actually. There has to be a give and get attitude at play and not a give and take. I wanted to leave it there, but think about it, right? I reckon that there's more goodness. There's more goodness for everyone, right? That comes from your graceful wait to receive than your impatient effort to take, your selfish effort to take. There has to be a give and get attitude at play, not a give and take, all right? But again, I don't want to digress. Selfishness needs to take an L. Otherwise, you will not connect, compromising the efforts to correct, criticize, counsel, critique, clarify, right? The C's that I mentioned earlier. Selfishness needs to take an L. Otherwise, you will not connect, compromising your efforts to correct. So we got to find opportunities, right? We got to find opportunities for us to connect. That's the O in the love, right? The lessons, the losses, that's the L in the love on the podcast. The O, the opportunities to connect arise at moments of vulnerability and intimacy. Yeah, think about it. Like in those very tense moments where there's confrontation at play, where people are being vulnerable, where intimacy is being developed forcibly or intentionally or consciously or not, right? There's an opportunity to connect. Hopefully at this juncture, right, or each juncture where there's this tension, one of you or both of you are making an effort to understand, right? There's a real intent and a willingness to identify the reasoning and the intentions behind the actions or statements at play, right? That way, I'm sure of this, I'm confident of this. That way, if people are really trying to be understanding, if people are really trying to identify the reasoning, the heart, the intention, the mindset behind this friction, right? There will be victory over offense and misunderstandings. That's the V in the love. I'm sure of this, like that if people are more understanding, if people really try to identify the root of the problem, the heart behind what is wrong, the mindset behind what is wrong, we will see victory over offense and misunderstandings, which fracture relationships, unsurprisingly, right? Offense and misunderstandings fracture relationships. And so, yeah, everyone wants to be understood, guys. I'm sure of that. Everyone wants to be seen. Everyone wants to be heard in one way or another. But, I mean, if you want to avoid scuffles, if you want to avoid tiffs or being in a very sticky place, right? You need to be a better listener. You need to be more emotionally intelligent and you need to be more sensitive. And that takes exercise. That's the E in the love. That takes exercise. All right. Exercise selflessness. Exercise being more consistent and intentional, being more compassionate, being more considerate, as hard as it is, right? Considering how sinful we are and how inherently selfish we are. We don't even need to try to be selfish, guys. If push comes to shove, you will shove someone else out of the picture, out of the way to save yourself. That imagery and wordplay was not intended, but I think that was brilliant. Anyway, yeah, when push comes to shove, you're going to shove someone else out of the picture to save yourself. And so, yeah, as difficult as it is, those muscles are very hard to develop, right? Where you are more compassionate, where you're more emotionally intelligent, where you're more sensitive, when you're more considerate, where you are a better listener, right? It's difficult, but it's worth it. It's fulfilling. Looking at the benefits of overcoming or seeing victory over offense and misunderstandings manifest. It's worth it, right? And yeah, like, I really do think if we connect before we correct, correction will be more effective, more fulfilling, more efficient, if I can put it like that as well, right? And only God can help us do this. Only God can help us to connect before we correct. Because sometimes we are very ready to react before we correct, or as we correct. We're very ready to let anger leave and not love. Let love lead as you correct. And these are in spaces where, you know, you're being held accountable, where you're being sharpened, where you're being encouraged, taught, where you're learning, you're unlearning, right? In instances where there's so much tension that can be just managed better because there's a connection, you want to get it right, right? Instances where you feel like it's weird or awkward to correct a loved one, or you feel offended, or when you feel misunderstood as you are corrected, connection is important. So try to connect with their efforts as they correct you, the heart behind their efforts, the intention behind it all. And be conscious of your efforts, be conscious of your mind, your heart as you correct others. That it's got to be done in a loving way, that it comes from a place of connection, where someone can truly connect with the goodness of God in your words, in your intentions, and in your actions, right? Connect before you correct. Good people, that is it from me. Thank you so much for tuning in to Love on a Podcast, episode number 7. And I was very intentional about adding the number 7 to that statement because we are still doing continuation and consistency. And the next episode is going to be incredible. I can assure you of that. And I'm excited about it. There's a lot to look forward to because we're going to be changing narratives. We're looking forward to changing narratives as we respond lovingly, as we connect with the cost of love, the true cost of love, as we I'm just summarizing the previous episodes as I say this, as we connect before we correct. I'm excited. So yeah, I implore you to connect before you correct, and I encourage you to love your neighbor as you love yourself. What I say week in, week out. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's it from me, Godfrey. Check you out next episode. Love on a Pod.